Right. Hello.
I'm not sure why you done that.
Because I could. I haven't heard it, so I don't even know if it went or not. Can you hear me all right?
I can do. Yeah.
I don't know if they can. Who knows, right? It's all a mystery to us. So
Yeah.
we are now on episode 8 billion of our podcast. But this doubles as episode 1 because we've realized today when we were going to load too big of a batch that episode 1 is even worse quality than however bad this happens to be today. You want to tell people the story?
I'm not sure we can relive it. It's so painful.
So
painful.
It has been quite a thing. So again, because this is the first time you hear from us, it's not an again. It's so first, who we are and why we're here. We have individuals supposed careers in technology and in the human side of technology, respectively. We both believe strongly in agile. We both believe strongly in the importance of making strong cultures and clean code. And we're going to be talking about that from 2 different points of view on this podcast. Now, for those of you who have seen us on any other channels, you might have picked up that we are also a new couple. So a lot of these conversations are new to us as well. And we are also trying to kind of land on common understandings of various things. I'll have you know that Dave is a producer. It's why he's taking a picture of something right now, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
But what has happened in our many recordings of episode 1 through 3 is that we have seen that we are not super capable with this. And we've decided that we could either, one, outsource all of this to our various creative agencies that we are now working with.
Which sounds like a very good option.
Which is something that Dave was strongly for. Or the harder option, but the much more fun option of actually doing this part of the stuff ourselves, at least until such a time that we know exactly what the picture of excellence looks like. And let me tell you, the picture of excellence is not releasing 4 podcasts because we couldn't get them right. And it is not polishing episode 1 until it's usable, and it is not attempting to redo it without testing, which is what we're doing now.
But there's too much of effort.
They are not. Sorry, go ahead.
No. There's a lot of our problems there, really.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, there's a lot of the word problems, isn't it?
Do you want to get to the meat of it? Or do we want to moan about podcasting software, microphones not working, second cameras not working, feedback, crappy sound quality?
I want to do both. I want to do it all. I want to do telling people who we really are as humans, and I want to talk about the meat of the issue and the theory of it. I don't want to do either one or the other. We can't do one or the other. This is the meat of the issue.
Okay. The meat of the issue, I see.
We are an example of the meat of the issue. You are reluctantly being dragged into this humanity thing because you know it's needed and you know we can't make software any other way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think software development's always been a tricky thing. Team management's always been a tricky thing. Developer productivity's always been a tricky thing, right? And trying to improve, measure, help staff do better things, help staff turn out better quality software is just...
I don't like calling them staff office. And I call you on every word that I think is a problem.
Okay.
I think these days we have to be intentional about words, not afraid of using them, but intentional about them because what do we want to call the people we work with? I just want to call them people because it's the easiest, because otherwise we get tied up between developers versus technologists versus, let's just call them our people.
Our people.
Our teams.
Our people. We don't need to differentiate between UI developers, QA.
Of course, we're going to name them, but our people are our people.
Our people are our people.
Right.
So.
But they're not stuff. They're not resources. They're not stuff. This is and you know that. And this I picked up on a silly point for devil's advocate.
You have, haven't you?
It's fine. It's for the reason of educating our audience. So you should let it pass,
Right.
I would say.
You think?
I would
Okay, let's let
try.
it pass. And we're not using staff anymore. We're using people.
We're not using people.
We're not using
We're
people.
using the word people.
We're using the word people.
Yeah. Well, we can't be doing this either. We did promise that we're going to try and stay on track. Now, you also have to remember, I don't agree with your definition of what the podcast should be offering as value, which is a set of very actionable insights or an amount of knowledge that you could have never found anywhere else. I think people, to a degree, listen for that, but they also listen to make a connection and
Mm.
to find another human they might agree with, or they might like, or they might resonate with. So while I take a point, we should be offering some tangible value as well. I don't think we should be obsessed with the topic and turn this into yet another um, kind of what would you call it, like a stiff colored enterprise.
Okay, no, it doesn't need to be stiff collared, but on the podcasts I've listened to, some of them just start with like about 20 minutes of waffle
Right,
before
this is
getting
us.
into anything. No, this is us right
This is
now.
that one. This is it.
This is us right now doing
But I
what
don't agree that we didn't get into anything. We started with a confession. We are absolutely crap at setting up creator studios. I guess that wasn't a shock to anyone
Mhm.
but me. But we are just crap for now. We should then give information to people, which is to say, ironically, this is episode 1. By the time we get to episode 3 or 4, we would be transmitting this from the island.
Yes,
I suppose you should
if
tell
the
people what it
Wi-Fi
is
holds
because
up,
I don't think we're moving to that
and
alignment and taking all our
yeah,
millions.
if everything comes together. I mean, it's hard to get it to come together in our home office.
Right. I think he's saying if everything comes together podcast wise, not if everything comes together and we move to the Cameron.
No, well, I'd like to
Although
do that anyway.
that's
No, it should do that.
yeah, that's not a no.
Isn't that everyone's lifetime goal?
Hmm?
That's everyone's lifetime goal now, isn't it?
I saw just complete segue. I saw a video somewhere or other the other day that said, from here I'm not going to name what I say. I'm just going to say it's a video or an audio or a meme or whatever, but I'm not going to say it was on TikTok or LinkedIn because that's. Hold up a second, everyone, because this is live enough for us. We don't have the time to do another take. And Dave is trying to tell me something that's supposed to be a secret. What have I been doing?
I need power.
He needs power, and that's supposed to be a secret. We are sharing power because we have very little. It's limited. We can't spend it all on him or me. So here you go.
We just cannot afford any more Apple specific cables,
I swear, if this
which
is
have been.
going to turn into another Apple bone, that's another thing you're going to hear a lot on this podcast, which is that we work on 2 different types of technology. I'm not an Apple fanboy or girl. I am just happen to be on Apple technology, and he just happens to obviously to be very Microsofty.
Well, Windows and Android.
Hard on Microsoft or Microsofty. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
So
No, I've been a Microsoft fanboy. All right. And I do think the Microsoft software generally hangs together as a much more seamless solution.
we're not going into that in this episode.
No,
But
but
you know what? No, it's Microsoft, so anyone can talk about it. It's like talking about God. You can go into anything, right?
yeah.
None of us is having any design of being hired by Microsoft, which reminds me, on that first episode, we touched on 2 things we wanted to do on this podcast. One, laugh a lot. We managed to not do that efficiently after episode or in any episode. Really.
No,
We
we're
weren't
not
that
going to do it on
funny. We
this
were
one because it's just been painful getting to right here now,
yeah,
isn't it? So there's going to
just
be no fun, no frolics, no.
it has been some fun frolics. I mean, people have seen it. There has been some element of fun and frolics have been inserted in our stand-ups, in our retros. The team has been forced to reconsider their fun and frolics as well, and their brands as well. We've had a lot of general fun over these last few weeks and months when we've tried to re-understand our brand. And I think we've come to some serious realizations. And I think this journey in itself is what we're giving people as the meat here. Not our ideas on technology. They come, they go, they change. We'll talk about the topics of the day, but maybe we won't. Who knows? We write a lot. We have blogs that people can read where we're on and on about. And Dave Barry, that's called that UK. You can tell people what it is as well if you like, and at blomstrom.com, and obviously on LinkedIn, where some of us are top voice at the time of this recording.
Some of us. You just mean you. It's very unlikely I'm going to be a LinkedIn top.
No, it's not impossible. Who knows? Although you do have a stronger day job than just being able to talk about your passion and advocate for change, which is all I'm doing these days.
Yeah.
It's a very privileged position, but it's also one that drives me to screaming frustrations and teary frustrations multiple times. But long story short, I've had a long career in technology, in financial technology, in then agile DevOps culture, and have landed at this place where I don't think you guys can make technology without humans, and I don't think us humans can carry on in the workplace without taking something from the technical side of things and bettering our culture.
Yeah, sure. And I think obviously our focus here is on tech, but everything you've been doing, right, can be applied to any team of people, right? It can be military, it can be cleaners, it can be car mechanics, it can be anything.
Our conversation, yes, is about how these things work in technology, but you're right, it is the same thing everywhere.
Yeah.
Us as people need more.
Yeah, and if you can imagine maybe an old schooly Ford assembly line going on where there's people putting on doors and engines and whatever else, you have to trust those people to be able to do their jobs before you can do your job. Because if one person doesn't do their job, then the whole thing falls down, doesn't it?
Yes. I'm more like the equivalent of organisms that move together as one, as a team, than assembly lines. I have a current anti-Taylorist fetish, an anti-fetish for the industrialism and the Taylorism side of the workplace.
For the benefit of our listeners, you can expand on that a little bit. Not just for me, obviously.
No, not for you at all. But we started in the business world and in the software making world with the idea of we make a thing, we ship a thing.
Yeah, I mean, classic example. When I started in software, way back when, on the ZX Spectrum, way back in the day, those game builders was a cottage industry. It was one bloke in his bedroom doing everything end to end. Right, the movement, the sprites, the graphics, the music, everything. Now, what's that?
I have reacted to that live by inserting a laughing thing that I have no control over because the software we're using doesn't let me hear the control sound, doesn't show me how long it is, and doesn't even tell me when it starts playing. So a well-timed, oh no, developer in a cage.
That wasn't developer in a cage, it was developer in his back bedroom. I mean, the name that springs to mind is Matthew Smith, who developed Manic Miner, was one of the breakout games at the time. Look, there's going to be 50-year-old blokes all around the country having a little bit of a semi on now they've heard that name.
Are you serious?
We're
going to be producing 50 bloke semis some other way, according to the industry.
But no, he's got a very interesting story, interesting background. He just made a crack load of money and then completely mad, apparently.
I need to read a lot more about this. When we first started this podcast, I fancied that.
And I used to remember his home phone number as well. It used to be the cheat code to get infinite lives.
This should be live, so I don't get a belief that I could do anything about my consternation, that it could be maybe edited out or you could explain about this. So I don't get that belief this should be live, but it isn't. So I don't know anything about this. However, so won't other people that have come here to listen to this. It's called the Manic Miner.
Manic Miner.
So it was a minor who was manic. It's
And
a
it was followed up
question.
by Jet Set Willy.
I'm sorry.
It introduced the world to the whole genre of platform games.
Oh my life! Is it the guy who is in a boat and is just grabbing
No.
gold? I have arrived at games a lot later than him and after a lot of communism, so we don't have common references.
Right. But
people who listen to this will know
anyway,
what it is.
that was the
It's a
cottage
game.
industry then. Now,
It's a
right?
game.
If you take, the Grand Theft Auto 6 in development now, Christ knows how much billions of pounds is being poured into that and how many man hours is being poured into that,
Right.
and how many separate teams are working on that and not even talking to each other.
So the point you're making is
that technology has changed and moved on from when it was one person doing it all to now having to have teams of people who need to pull together in the same direction to get an end result.
I appreciate that because it's the same in every.
It's the same industry, right? And it's like the production line.
There's no, I don't believe it's like the production line.
You don't think Henry Ford, when Henry Ford made the Model T, he bashed it with his own hands?
The difference is the production line is a collection of individual tasks with handovers. That is the opposite of teamwork that's creative and collaborative.
But isn't that a microservice system?
No, it isn't. The microservice system can very well be engineered and maintained and it's a live organism. It's changed by people.
Right.
It is not at all a handover.
Okay, so we've got a slight difference between a one-way process and then a living, breathing, changing
It's
thing.
very different.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like getting hung up on a small little semantic. But
not at all small little semantics. Small little semantics is what has brought us to not being clear on wording. I will not let that stand anymore. We're now 15 minutes into it, and we haven't even shown people how horrible the other one was. Do you want to show them a little bit what we were saying? Let's roll like the first few minutes of our initial podcast episode 1. Do you have it in your
I do. This is not going to be a smooth handover either, so I've got to share a screen. First off, it needs to know which screen I'm sharing, and it can't see that in the list of screens I've got for some reason.
Would you like me to play a fun sound meanwhile?
No. That's fine. No, here we go. Here we go.
Can you hear?
No, we don't.
Oh, God. Make it play because she looks startled. Oh, God. This is what we mean. Maybe the eventual recording is going to be a lot better. The 2 topics on the title, what are you on about? Can you hear any of it? Because I can't hear any of it.
No,
I would that makes all of us. I wonder if our viewers can hear it. Not at all, I can't hear any of it.
This is pretty much what we just said now, actually.
Okay, well then there's nothing of any value, which is likely. I can't tell you whether I'm loud on top of it or not. I have no control over what's coming out. Maybe stop it for a second.
Oh no, it's very confusing. This is
not gonna work.
It's doing my head in.
Okay,
it really is doing my head in. It's trying to listen to us here, listen to you there.
Just turn it off.
Right. Yeah, very frustrated with Will Dave. Thank you very much. Jesus, that was horrible. Let's not do that again.
Didn't work out, did it? Okay. And there was nothing of huge value in that episode. All we said was, if I remember correctly, look, we gotta be super real because we won't be getting some McKinsey job again after we've talked about all the things. Mm-hmm. We gotta be super honest and super authentic because we are at that time of our lives and because I am building the most authentic of leadership brands that have ever been built. We have to be, I'm launching a book called Tech Culture that's coming out in October. This is a second podcast that I've launched because this is the first one called The Secret Society of Human Work Advocates and Human Debt Fighters.
Which is and Human Debt Fighters. That's a new bit.
It's a new added bit. And it's practically just a space where we talk about what is the hold up that we can't do technology and people better from an HR point of view. And obviously anyone else is invited to
not exclusionary, but aimed at HR.
Anyone at all who's done any of the human work and has tried hard to get the people where they should be invited. And obviously, I write once or twice or 3 times a week on LinkedIn these days, 0 times.
Right. Let's just sum that one up then. What do you mean by human work?
Thank you. Good question. I'm wary to use that, but I mean anything that is the antidote to human death. Funny you should ask me what human death is.
What is human death,
Because
Duena?
human death is, and I'm sick of myself telling the definition these days, but I suspect I'm going to have to say it at least 200 more times, so I'm better off repeating it. But human death is a term I have come up with while researching for my second book, which is essentially the all-encompassing amount of things that we have left undone when it comes to our humans in the workplace. All of the big initiatives, all of the small initiatives, all of the things we should have done to make them feel valued, loved, happy, and healthy. And we have left them done. Those things have amassed into an amount of debt that this organization has.
Let's have a few concrete examples.
But before that, I will give you competence. Before that, I was wondering if our viewers can think of anything that it reminds them of when you leave things undone and you end up, or you don't quite do the right things, and then you end up having shortcuts and unvaluable content and everything else that you in the technical world might be calling tech debt.
Mhm.
Exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
Precisely and exactly the same thing. All of the corners you've cut with people, all of the corners you've cut with code. All of the times you could have tested but you didn't. All of the times that you could have finished this document but you didn't. All of the shortcuts we've taken. All of the times when we haven't done the work we wanted to do at the highest of performance as individuals or at the best way as an organization or as a team. All of those have created human debt. And to fight it, we need to start doing some of this quote unquote human work, meaning
Right.
EQ, one on ones, understanding of conflict, psychological safety, most important, and the Google tenets of the Aristotle project.
Okay, so a lot more than just going out for beer after work.
Not a lot more, a lot smarter.
Not a lot more than going out for beer after work.
Not a lot more, a lot smarter.
That's good news.
It is good news. You can do all these things with beer or after work, or work that's not as clearly cut as we used to think it was.
Yeah. No, you're right. No. Work has ceased to be a 9 to 5 thing for the majority of people. I'd say. Obviously, there are still people who are 9 to 5, and if people want it working 9 to 5 and cracking on with their day jobs, and it's all good, that's all fine. No problem with that. Generally, in the tech industry, I think a lot of people do put a lot more effort, time, and resources into not only the role they're actually doing, but training themselves up. How often do people watch some form of YouTube video, which is microservices, agile, something over the weekend? That's all part of the job.
I disagree. That's only the learning part of the job.
No.
I think the part of the job that we really want to get doing even more. I think people are comfortable with those bits, that individual. I think it's the common bits that they're not comfortable with, and that's what's going to be most difficult. And that is why in my new book, Tech-Led Culture, I have spent a lot of time trying to explain the fact that we get lost in these new words of what is the new way to work, what is the new way of doing things that is most efficient, what is agile, what is lean, what are all the quiet quittings, great resignations, what all is happening, should we go back to the office? And all of these are taking us away from day-to-day comprehension of things that matter, which are these interactions between humans, and they're also taking us away from really big transformations where we have to go back to the drawing board and say, is the world of work as we have it today, by the models that have been given to us 20, 30 years ago, fit for purpose when we're trying to make technology fast that we love and that we can deliver joyfully.
Okay. So that's the brief synopsis of your book.
Of everything, of life.
Okay, but in the coming episodes, we'll be driving into that more. We'll be driving more into perhaps tech debt and where these two worlds meet.
And you can tell us examples from your day-to-day life. I can tell you what I've met around banks and many other software companies. And we can hopefully shed some light on one, how have we arrived at this authentic leadership thing? And why does it matter to us to be ourselves and lead this way? Because I think the more we're clear and the more we're ourselves, and I forgot to say in this episode, and I should have done that, I am neurodiverse, as are you, and that one of us is diagnosed, one of us is undiagnosed and reluctant. Look at your face talking about it. And not interested. I am interested in my hyper interest. I feel like neurodiverse people at work are the answer to the future of technology and the future of culture. But that's another conversation for another episode. We're going to have a couple of things in this podcast: some blind reacts, some joking, some explanation of how we do our mornings, which are stand-ups by the sea, some combinations between various channels. YouTube, you're going to see us popping in various places from YouTube to TikTok to LinkedIn, and of course,
well, we hope they will anyway.
Oh, we will.
We will, but whether the notes popping.
Oh, no, it's popping in a fun way. It's just popping around, just showing up.
Yeah.
Just much of us, not good of us. What do you want to get out of this?
What do I want to get
What
out
do
of
you,
this?
Dave Ballantyne, want to get out of this?
That's a very good question. What does Dave Ballantyne want to get out of this?
Yeah.
I'm all up for talking to some interesting people. Let's get some interesting guests on.
You mean other than me? Yeah.
As well as you.
Yeah.
There's a number of people which are back in my mind I would like to talk to, get on the show. I think they've got an interesting story to tell.
Yes. A few examples as well.
Yeah. So, so from the human side, but also let's get a few CTOs in and just see what their day-to-day life's like and how they're
I'm sorry, that right there is a problem. From the human side and some CTOs. And why aren't the CTOs from the human side? Everyone we're going to have on the show is going to be from the human side.
Yeah, and tech.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
This is the whole problem.
Are we
the live problem. No, all people. All people. There is nothing that's only tech. No. You're kidding me now. This is a live exasperation, and we're not, obviously, we could have engineered it. So genuinely, yes, we spoke there in a way that will make people believe that you are actually the closeted technologist here. Who's just yes, you have. You're often people do that. Execs do that around me a lot, and you're going to be my my chosen. No, let me finish, please. So,
no,
you and the rest of the technology world are in trouble. Some human people and some tech people is what you said. We're going to have.
Well, human people and tech people, they need to meet in the middle.
No. They don't need to. There are no two
I know it's the same people.
It's
the same people.
No, we're not getting anywhere here, and I might have an apoplectic attack, and this will not go live at all. Stop attempting to paint yourself as this human. This is not a cutesy reaction that the tech world has. It is an upsetting, demeaning, and just unuseful reaction for the universe. If you're going to be a tech person who is going to find the human bit cutesy, you don't need to be around me. You as a human, or you as an exec, or you as a team member, or you as a husband. You will never play.
That sounds super serious.
It is super scary because no one's ever going to play down the importance and the seriousness of doing the human work around me and get away with it. And people don't know that that's a nervous laughter on you. They're going to think you're still making fun of it. They're going to wait to see if you're going to get whacked over the head with something, which you might have. I'm genuinely scared. I need you to change this rhetoric. Like I need the entirety of technologies, every technology in the world. I need to know that in 10 years of me breaking my neck to do this and talk about this, and you breaking your neck, and everyone else who's been talking about the heart of Agile, from Master Component to everyone else, the signatories, everyone who's been breathing and living Agile. We all need to know that at the end of all our work, in 10, 15, 50 years' time, there will be no technologist that could hand on heart say That's the people side. This is the technology side. Because if we will still have those people, then I failed, you failed, and technology and culture failed. So stop saying people versus technology. It's one thing. There are no people, there are no tech people.
They're
So the
people.
people on the show will be both or not at all.
Okay. Thank you, baby. Thank you for setting me
now.
straight on that one.
I feel much better about that one. I know you don't.
No. And you asked me what I was getting out of this. This is, well, I was going to say it's cheaper than therapy, but I don't think it actually is.
It isn't cheaper, it isn't more pleasant.
No.
And I don't care what you're getting out of it. I get it.
You don't care what you're
No, in
Right.
all seriousness, no. And and people won't understand that we're bantering and we're joking and we're having these all the time. But this is not scripted, and we don't need to say this too many times because they know what we're about. Now, the fact that you panic when I start being super honest with our listeners is cutesy to me. And
cutesy. I love it. That's what I live for. Just to be cutesy to you.
Look, now that sounded demeaning. I've done that and I apologize. That wasn't useful. We alternate between these states all the time, the two of us. And it's, I think, very useful to keep it real. I don't want to keep it off camera. I don't want us to be as podcasty as possible. People have heard 100,000 podcasts where I can sound podcasty all you like. If you want me to sound that way for 45 minutes and give them nothing, I will. Right. I don't want to do that. They have enough to take nothing from. What they need to take from us is...
Right. So the difference between this and any other podcast you've been on is that it's Duena unloads.
No, absolutely not. Duena unloads on every podcast she's ever been on. The difference between this and
she unloads her husband.
Is that she will drag her husband thinking he's coming into unloading as well.
Right.
And then once he's done that, he will too drag his team into unloading. And everyone should unload and be honest and true to their feelings is what the difference
is. Okay.
Well, with that out of the way, we really need to stop to react, or people are going to think that I'm writing you about for no reason. So, in the next episode, you'll hear how Dave arrived at the heart of Agile. So, this will serve as a good intro.
Mm-hmm.
And on the next episode, you'll have a couple of interesting guests, at least one of them you want to talk about, with both a person and a city or type individual. Do you reckon we're going to have him maybe episode 4 or 5? We can call him from our vacation and try and get a couple of these episodes in.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening to us rambling.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I've been Dave Ballantyne. I may not be here on the next show.
You will be. Give them a real smile.
Thank you, everybody.
We are really pleased that you're coming with us on this journey of discovery. If you are, hopefully take something out of it. And if not, at least you've laughed at us, if not with us. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Have a good life, everyone. Have a good life if I don't talk to you again. Bye.
Bye.